What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek. I hope y'all like the new camera setup, man. I finally got my camera set up. I'm geek for it, man. I'm geek for it. So hopefully this works out well. Hopefully the audio is cool too. But yeah, man, I'm ready to talk some hoops. The main thing I want to talk about tonight, there's some good games on, but the main game I want to talk about was the very last game of the night, Nuggets Clippers. And I want to say I think this Nuggets team can really be scary with the addition of Aaron Gordon. I think that might be the move at the deadline, honestly, in my opinion. Just watching him tonight, his defensive versatility for this team was big time. I mean, he was guarding Kawhi pretty much the entire night. And Kawhi was struggling this game. I mean, he had a little stretch where he started to heat up, but that's what Kawhi does. But Aaron Gordon was doing, his job on him defensively. And, his reputation is really as a team defender, but if he can be a solid one-on-one defender like that, for this team in the postseason and as, just as season goes on, that's a big-time addition for them. Also, he was really showing like his playmaking ability too. He had 6 assists in the game. He was making the extra passes. He wasn't forcing up shots, and he was knocking down his shots, especially early on. I think he ended up being like a little under 50%, but early on in the game, he was picking his spots really well. And he's an excellent cutter. I mean, we know. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek. I hope y'all like the new camera setup, man. I finally got my camera set up. I'm geek for it, man. I'm geek for it. So hopefully this works out well. Hopefully the audio is cool too. But yeah, man, I'm ready to talk some hoops. The main thing I want to talk about tonight, there's some good games on, but the main game I want to talk about was the very last game of the night, Nuggets Clippers. And I want to say I think this Nuggets team can really be scary with the addition of Aaron Gordon. I think that might be the move at the deadline, honestly, in my opinion. Just watching him tonight, his defensive versatility for this team was big time. I mean, he was guarding Kawhi pretty much the entire night, and Kawhi was struggling this game. I mean, he had a little stretch where he started to heat up. That's what Kawhi does. But Aaron Gordon was doing, his job on him defensively, and his reputation is really as a team defender. But if he can be a solid one-on-one defender like that, for this team in the postseason, and as just as season goes on, that's a big time addition for them. Also, he was really showing like his playmaking ability too. He had 6 assists in the game. He was making the extra passes. He wasn't forcing up shots, and he was knocking down his shots, especially early on. I think he ended up being like a little under 50%, but early on in the game, he was picking his spots really well. And he's an excellent cutter. I mean, we know Aaron Gordon, the casuals know him as, being a high flying dunker. But I mean, he was cutting really well, and Jokic was finding him on those cuts. Will Barton found him a couple times too. So, this team with the addition of Aaron Gordon, it can make this team very scary in the Western Conference, in my opinion. I mean, I think, it's right now for this team. I mean, they have a lot of young pieces, but I mean, we saw last season in the bubble, they made it all the way to the conference finals, gave the Lakers a decent run. I think this season, they can show like if they can get back to that conference finals, they can show that last year wasn't a fluke. And it's a game where Jokic didn't really shoot the ball great. Jamal Murray started to heat up in the fourth quarter. Will Barton started out really hot, then he cooled off. Michael Porter Jr. had a pretty solid game. It was a low-scoring game, but it was really like defensively for the Nuggets. That's what won them this game. I mean, they seemed locked in defensively from the jump. It seemed like almost like a playoff type atmosphere on the court. So I really like this game for the Nuggets. Great win for them. As for the Clippers, I saw like it just seemed like they just struggled. Like seems like it's always been their problem. They struggle to get offense sometimes. I know Paul George is just coming back after missing a couple games. Rondo still hasn't played with this unit yet. Obviously Lou Will's gone now, so that's another scorer, another playmaker that's off the court. So I think the addition of Rondo is really going to be big for this team. And it's really, I was just talking to my dad earlier, about this game, and that's really what's going to make or break, this Clipper team, how they respond to Rondo. It seemed like when Rondo was coaching them up on the bench, like it seemed pretty cool, but I think Rondo kind of has that reputation, kind of like what Chris Paul has. It's like some people like playing with him, some players hate playing with him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Clipper team responds to that. And this postseason run is big for them, man, because Kawhi can walk in the offseason. Paul George, I think, can walk too. So this run for the Clippers is going to be really key. I mean, they get bounced before the conference finals again. We could see a major shakeup coming for the LA Clippers. But moving on to the next game, at least the next game that I watched, because there's a couple games I didn't get to tune into. Well, I want to talk about this game, the Hornets and the Nets, because I was looking really forward to this game. Got back a little late, and by the time I turned it on, it was already a blowout in the first quarter. LaMarcus made his debut today. He started for the Nets. He had a pretty, solid game for somebody that hasn't really played basketball really much this season. But I was also talking to my dad about the Nets too, and I I've mentioned how I think chemistry could be an issue, but the more I think about it, I don't know if it's going to be an issue, man. Because this team, man, they're just running so fluent, no matter who's on the court. I mean, Kyrie was really these last couple of games. Kyrie's been running his point guard game, man. He hasn't really been forcing shots. I know he took like 25 shots the other night, but that's when Harden was off the court, mid game. So Kyrie kind of had to turn it up, but he also had, I think, a season high 12 assists in that game too. So he's really starting to learn how to play the point guard role when James isn't on the court. Obviously when James is there, he's been running that point guard role. And we haven't seen KD in I think 21 or 22 games. It's been a while since KD's been on the court. I think in this stretch, they're 18-3 without Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant's one of the top 5 players in the NBA. So it's scary just how good this team is, man. And adding LaMarcus Aldridge, who his role is not even going to be that big. I think postseason he's just going to be very situational. But that's really all this team needs. They can throw out so many different lineups with bigs. It can be LaMarcus, it can be DeAndre Jordan, it could be Nicholas Claxton, who I really like watching, or it can be Jeff Green as a small ball 5. This team, they got a lot of versatility, man. And I think maybe chemistry is really the only thing that could keep them from making the finals, possibly. I don't know, because I even think their defense isn't really that big of an issue, man. Because I think they're 19th in defensive efficiency this season, so a little below the middle of the pack. But I mean, honestly, they only have to be great defensively for stretches in the playoff game. That's really all they need, and I think they have the capability to do that. So the Nets scary, and I was happy the Hornets got some national TV love, and they folded so bad. They folded so bad. I don't think they cracked 90 points in this game, but I don't know. They've been playing well lately, even without LaMelo. Terry Rozier's really been stepping it up. I think he was just named Player of the Week for the previous week, so shout out to Terry Rozier. But yeah, I feel bad for the Hornets because finally got on national TV, and this is what we saw. But I'm sure they'll bounce back because they've had a really good year and they still been playing well without their Rookie of the Year candidate. So I'm sure they'll bounce back for sure. But the next games I did watch, let's talk about the Hawks and Spurs. This game was kind of crazy. I tuned in kind of late, close game, and it seemed like the Hawks, they were in control pretty much this entire game. I think the announcers made a comment the Spurs didn't have the lead until they had the lead in the first quarter, and then they didn't take the lead until this game went into overtime. I mean, the game shouldn't have went to overtime. Derek White made a great defensive play, and it led to a DeJounte Murray and one, and then a missed free throw by Trae Young, very rare. And then I think DeMar hit a pull-up jump shot to send the game to overtime. But it just seemed like the Hawks just couldn't close the game out. But then they finally did. Gallinari hit a corner 3 to pretty much ice the game. But even then, they were up 6 points with a minute left. The Spurs cut it all the way down to 1. So I don't know. The Hawks, it seemed like they were struggling to win this game, but they closed it out. They've been playing really good basketball lately. And this is a game where Trae Young didn't shoot the ball very well, and he started off very slow. But Bogdanovich really picked it up. Gallinari really picked it up. Capella picked it up too. I think Bogdanovich, Trae, and Capella each had 28 points. So that's a lot of production come from just 3 guys. Shout out to the Hawks for getting this win. And Nate McMillan has had his team playing really well. So they're looking lately one of the better teams at the that log jam in the Eastern Conference, because there's a bunch of teams that's sitting either a game or 2 above 500 or a game or 2 below 500. But they've been looking very well lately. Tough loss for the Spurs. They've been on a little bit of a losing skid lately after pretty much being in the playoff, race most of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see, if they fall out, how are they going to, manage the rest of the season? Because, they didn't make any big moves at the deadline. I mean, besides letting LaMarcus go. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Pop decides to do. Yeah, they're currently sitting at the 8th seed, 2 games above 500. So interesting situation for San Antonio. The next game, another game that went into overtime. The Orlando Magic, man, they keep picking up wins. They went to New Orleans, but no Zion, no Zoe, and no Brandon Ingram in this game. But the game went into overtime. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a great game. He missed a layup very late. I think it was a 3-point game with 20 seconds left or so. He got to the rim, and I think it looked like he almost wanted to dunk it, or he was surprised he was so wide open. He just kind of left it a little short. But he had a really great game. I think he had over 30 in this game. He was really hooping. tough game for him. Very tough game. I mean, not tough, but just tough situation. But the Magic were able to pick up this win, and they picked up a couple wins. I mean, they beat the Clippers the other night. They won this game, and the roster they had on the floor was like, yeah, they're not supposed to win this game, but they won the game. Wendell Carter had a very nice game. I think he came off the bench in this one. He played really well, had a 21-12 double-double. Nice game for him. It's good to see him, just getting some run. I think he's somebody like a fresh start with is going to be good for him. And good for those young bigs to compete for some minutes. Hopefully they can get something out of Mo Bamba. Chuma Okeke, if you're not hip to him, he's a very nice young player for that team too. I think Cole Anthony came back tonight as well. And RJ Hampton's looked pretty solid. I mean, there's going to be a lot of, minutes, a lot of shots for this Magic team. So, these young players better make the most of it, for the rest of the season. And as for the Pelicans, I mean, you're missing your top 3 players, but I think that roster is still solid enough to maybe they should win this game, but they end up losing it. So, tough for them because they keep they win a couple games and they lose a couple games. So it's hard for this young team to find that consistency, but you kind of expect that with such a young squad. Tough game for them. Some other news, Philly, they blew out Cleveland, pretty expected. Even without Joel Embiid, they've been playing so well, but Joel is expected to come back, I think, Saturday. So good to see him getting back on the court. I think he just missed 2.5 weeks. So, it's great that knee injury wasn't too much, just a bone bruise. Shake Milton had a really big game. He's another player that can be very key for this Philly team. He's another guy that can make plays, out of the pick and roll, off the dribble and stuff. Pretty solid knockdown shooter too. So he can be big for this Philly team. He's had a pretty good year too. So shout out to him for having a big night. Hey, Josh Jackson. He's one of those guys that you look at as he was a top 4 pick, man, and he almost fell out the league. I think he was in the G League after, Phoenix got rid of him. And, he made the most of his opportunity in Memphis last year, turned into a contract with Detroit, and he's, shown some flashes this season. He had 31 tonight. I'm pretty sure that's a career high. So, man, shout out to him because, somebody that, he's really bounced back and he's, still providing very solid minutes. And the Pistons picking up a win against the Wizards. Bradley Beal didn't play. Russell Westbrook's been on a tear. He didn't really have a great game tonight. I think he still ended with a triple-double, though. But, yeah, the Wizards, another team, they're in a tough situation because I think they're 12 games under 500 now. But still, they're I think 2 games out of the play-in, away from the 10 seed. That's just how bad the bottom of the East is. But, we'll see when Bradley Beal gets back just how this team – if they can gel at the right time, because I mean, all it takes in the East is 4 or 5 wins, and you're right back rolling. Speaking of a team that's been struggling after playing great basketball, the Miami Heat, they got back into the win column tonight. They beat up on the Warriors. Not really beat up on them. It's kind of a close game down the stretch, but Oladipo made his debut. I didn't get to tune in. I seen he had a dunk early on. But I'm just interested to see how this Heat team continues to gel because they made some moves at the deadline. And, they were playing some really good basketball, and then they just kind of fell back into the way that they were playing early on in the season. So, see if maybe, the new players coming in can give this team some more life because, they're a team that, they're expecting to be, in a similar position that they were last year. But, the top of the East is getting tough, man. It's getting tough. That's I think a lot of people will probably take Brooklyn right now. I'm not counting Philly out. And Milwaukee, I don't know, man. I don't know about Milwaukee for real. They've been playing good basketball, but they always do that. They always play great basketball, but in the playoffs, adjustments just aren't made. So unless Coach Budenholzer has made, changes to his coaching, techniques or something, I don't really see them, making, a finals run in my opinion. But, that's just my opinion, man. That's just my opinion. And yeah, that's actually all the games, but I don't know, man. Because, me and my dad were talking, and he was pretty much saying, he doesn't think anybody in the East can take out the Nets. And I'm like, man, I could see Philly doing it. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it would have to almost be a perfect situation, but who knows? Maybe the chemistry does play an issue for the Nets. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the defense, sneaks back up on them. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, we really don't know. I mean, we haven't seen this team at full strength pretty much all year. Like I can probably count on one hand the amount of times their big three has played in the same game. Because I really don't remember seeing them play that much at all. Like maybe 3 or 4 games. To be honest, like I don't know. I seen my guy Kenny Beecham made a video asking like, is there parity in the NBA because the Nets have started to load up? And I don't know, like I don't think it's as straightforward as maybe the Warrior teams were, or like when you knew LeBron was gonna come out the East. But we're still at a weird spot in the season. Like we could get into like mid-April and be like, oh yeah, nobody's gonna take the Nets out. I don't know. It's an interesting season for sure. So I hope the playoffs are competitive, man. That's all I can hope for. Yeah, I don't know if y'all seen how KD was in the news. KD was in the news for some leaked DMs between him and Michael Rappaport. Yeah. Yeah, that was some crazy stuff that was being said, but I ain't gonna speak too much on that, man. But yeah, that's the slate of games for Thursday night, man. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you're new, share it too, man. Helps grow the channel, man. We're trying to get out there for sure. But I appreciate y'all. Hope you like the new camera setup, and I'm gonna be back next time, y'all. Peace.